To order. Today is Friday, March 8th, 2024. The time is 9 o'clock a.m. We're meeting at the City of Rogers Community Center, 14 East Main Street. I want to welcome the court members and the commission members to this meeting. We have one item on our agenda. There's going to be time for lots of discussion. There's going to be a presentation, and then we'll ask questions. As Mr. Cole and his team directs us, in the presentation or at the end of the presentation or whatever. Again, we'll welcome the committee members, welcome the members of the Parks and Rec Committee to the meeting this morning. And with all that said, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. John Cole. Mr. Cole.
Thank you. Excuse me, point of order. Mayor, you called this as an official meeting, and I've been so busy with being out of town at a conference and then back in. We have more than a quorum of each of us here. And was this announced, this meeting announced to the public and the media?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
It's an official meeting. I call it a special meeting because we just have one item, agenda item, and it's not your regular meeting time, it's not our regular meeting time. That's why I call it a special
Good.
meeting.
I just wanted that clarification.
You're welcome. I expected questions from somebody, so let's go on. Mr. Cole?
Good morning, is everyone hear me? So, thank you very much. My name is John Cody. I'm the project manager for the Parks and Rec Facilities Master Plan. With me today, I've got Chris Manning with Human Nature, serving as the landscape architect and planner for the project, and then Jim Guthrie with Hub and Weber. They're our architectural partner, and you can see their handiwork here with the renovation of Jenny Rogers. So our agenda today, we are going to, the last time we were together, we reviewed the process that we've undertaken and the initiatives that are currently underway. So we want to make sure that we articulate that what we're doing is a county-wide perspective. We're looking at a park system not just within the confines of Danville, but it's really impactful for Boyle County. We want to share the key parks and recreation themes that have emerged as we've worked through our initial projects, understand what we've accomplished since we've come into our role in 2021, identify what is currently in progress so that you understand where we currently stand, and then start to discuss and understand the park amenities that are needed and the upgrades that we need in our existing our parks, and then give at least an overview of what we believe the investment potential is for each of those initiatives. And then finally, the reason that we're here is to understand our collective path forward. So as I said, we're really, when we came into this, looked at this as a county-wide perspective. We started actually at the regional level, understanding what our connections were for the surrounding cities, et cetera, and then started to focus in on some of the natural assets that we have, like Harrington Lake and the Wildlife Refuge, and begin to piece together a network that weaves all of that together so that at the end of this, we have parks and recreation that are well distributed amongst everyone within the county itself. As we've gone through that process, there have been some key themes that have emerged. One is a comprehensive strategy for aquatics. That was one of the things the 2018 master plan identified as a high priority. So community pool or pools need to be strategically located so that they serve all residents. We want to look through, or at least understand what active outdoor recreation might look like. So that's building upon our current parks, understanding what the opportunities are within each of those parks, and really start to address some of the needs that were identified in the 2018 master plan. Indoor recreation was a high priority that was identified. It's one that we haven't dug into deeply, but it's something that if it's a community need, we really need to understand where that falls in the hierarchy of projects. As I said before, Parks for Everyone. right? So whatever we do, it needs to be well distributed so that it's not just serving one particular group, it's serving all of our residents, whether they're in the city or in the county. And then we need to continue to upgrade our existing facilities that have had some deferred maintenance, and currently those parks are being, those needs are being addressed by the staff. Building upon the 2018 master plan, the recommendations that were there, and considering recent developments like Jenny Rogers coming into the fold, we focused on 4 key areas. Jenny Rogers, the community center, which we had a punch list this past week, so it's getting very close to being finished. We're excited about that. That's phase 1. Michael Smith Park is currently under construction. If you go by there, you can see that there is a tremendous impact on that once proud park. Community aquatic strategy. We've started thinking about the feasibility, and that strategy includes a new pool. It includes Bunny Davis and what the opportunities might be there, and whether or not one or both of those facilities is the direction to go. And then Millennium Park, the first phase was the tennis court complex, but that was driven because of the softball needs for the high school. So the tennis courts became one of those higher priorities for us. So what's been accomplished recently, the Jenny Rogers Community Center Master Plan, which I believe we shared with this group the last time, the Millennium Park Expansion Master Plan, Michael M. Smith Park Master Plan, the Jenny Rogers Community Center Child Care Phase 1, which I had mentioned we just had the punch list earlier this week, Phase 1 for the Millennium Park tennis courts, Cowan Street Park Playground has been installed, Jackson Park Playground has been installed, the soccer field sod replacement has taken place, William E. Bunny Davis Recreation Complex remodel has taken place, and then a new and unified branding strategy, and the logo is seen up in the top left of the slide, has been accomplished. And what we're currently working on is the feasibility of a community pool here at Jenny Rogers, the Millennium Park expansion feasibility study, identifying those things that are high priority needs based on the master plan, and Michael Smith Park, which is currently under construction. That's a playground and a splash pad. Additional park opportunities and initiatives. So if we start to think about this globally again and move outside of those 4 initiatives, Junction City Park improvements, we had talked about that at our last meeting. That includes a ball field improvement, pavilion renovation, playground, and splash pad as opportunities. A potential Perryville splash pad, mountain bike park, and a recent meeting with the Trails Alliance, the Caldwell Farm Trail, completing that, woven wire mountain bike park, my apologies, and the Walnut Street Complete Streets improvements. Existing park upgrades and initiatives, so these are things that are currently available to us but are not moving forward or not funded yet. The Millennium Park Tennis Court shade structure, Millennium Park Tennis Court lighting, there is the opportunity to light the 4 lower courts. Michael M. Smith Park parking lot, the Michael Smith Park Pavilion and Civic Green, Jackson Sports Park court improvements, I think that is well overdue. Jenny Rogers bleachers and scoreboard to support the basketball leagues. Jenny Rogers site improvements, including a playground, which is no longer up and operational, but that is certainly something we can attack in the fitness park as part of that. The Bunny Davis Complex pickleball expansion. Pickleball is exploding. So maybe an opportunity to build upon what we've already established out there. And the Cowan Street Park improvements, which could be a number of things, but that is certainly something we can focus on. So what I want to do is give you an overview of what we've done with the Jenny Rogers Aquatic Feasibility Study. We shared these images with you the last time, but we have now advanced that design to start thinking about what this really means. So in collaboration with city staff, the new pool could be a 25-meter 8-lane pool so we could host regional meets. It would include a water play feature that would be at a beach entry for a pool, an accessible pool lift to make sure that we meet our accessibility needs, a water table and jets at the entry into beach entry along the side of the playground. And the building improvements that we need to think about to support that would be accessible restrooms, community rooms, the stage that's out in the basketball court. If that is removed, we have the opportunity for new community rooms that could be rented out, and an outdoor terrace that could be a viewing platform for swim meets. So that is all on this level. But what the pool also offers up for us is the ability to take advantage of the basement, which has been underutilized for some time. And on that level, thinking about ticketing and concessions, locker rooms, that terrace that is an overhead viewing area, underneath we would have the ability for storage and a covered space, new stairs that would give us access down to the basement, and then, as we always need, storage for pool equipment, etc. So the proposed improvements include the building improvements that are needed to support aquatics, the removal of the stage and the addition of the community rooms, upgraded bathrooms throughout this floor and the basement, stormwater management, so we're going to have to do something now that we're adding more impervious surface, additional parking, which is going to be needed to support regional parking lots, upgraded utilities, and the pool itself. The anticipated capacity for this facility is about 689 people. That's including the pool and the pool deck and the indoor facilities. And our rough estimate right now is $11.2 million. That's based off what we have now. But just to give you an order of magnitude of what that could be, and that was actually prepared by Turner Construction, so it's not just, where is this thing? So it's more realistic. A lot of information on that. We can come back to it, but if it's okay with the group, I'll keep moving forward, and we can open it up later. So the other option we've got is William E. Bunny Davis Recreation Complex. Currently, we've got the pool that's in place, but potential improvements include the rebuilding of the pool or a new pool, replacing the pool deck, the bathhouse, which is currently, I believe there have been some minor adjustments and modifications, but it would be renovating that. And then one of the things that we've heard about is a winter enclosure, something that will allow us to have teams with the ability to practice during the winter. And this pool configuration and location seems to make the most sense. So the anticipated occupancy of Bunny Davis is 501. That includes the pool, the indoor facilities, and the pool deck. And the anticipated renovation cost or building of that is about $2.7 million. Millennium Park, I'm going to take a breath. Right. So for Millennium Park, with that property coming under the control of Parks and Recreation, really the goal is to complement the uses that we've already got in Millennium Park, to add facilities that were identified as high priority needs and the master plan, and make sure that it weaves into the trail network that is very important for the success of the park. And so some of the elements include a high school age baseball field, a multi-purpose synthetic field, an outdoor civic green and performance pavilion, a new park office with a playground, possibly a splash pad, and parking to support those. In addition, we'll explore the opportunity of reusing the structures that we have on site. If there's an existing barn out there that can be used as a park shelter, we want to look at what that means to us and value that cost and see if it's worth that investment. In the park core, which will be inside the loop, one of the things that we're thinking about, I drove by this intersection this morning at about 8 o'clock It is a treat to get in and out of off the bypass. But doing something that can help alleviate some of the congestion at that intersection. Moving this road gives us the flexibility to move the multi-purpose field. I know that there was talk at one point of needing another fire station. Possibly it could happen on this piece of property, maybe not, but moving this road gives us, or opens up, some other potential uses. And this is the tennis court facility that everybody has seen out on site. The baseball field would be benched into the hillside, would have an elevated viewing platform. We've got restrooms and concessions. We've got a press box behind home plate. And then there is structured seating very similar to what we see at the tennis court facilities, with a ramp system that would get you down to field elevation to make sure that we get full accessibility to that facility. And then there have been discussions about whether this would be a natural surface or a synthetic surface. Both of those have been assessed and analyzed, and that's something that we would want to explore deeper with our potential partners for that high school facility. The Park Hub includes new park offices. There's an existing building out there currently north of the tennis courts. The idea is to renovate that structure to become the park offices, to have a central organizing ridgeline pathway that starts to organize both the tennis court facilities, have direct connections to our park offices. Obviously, we need to think about parking. And then on the back side of this, there's an elevated terrace that could be rented out. We're thinking indoor-outdoor facilities so that it could be a community room that could generate a little bit of revenue. And then as part of that, there is room for either a splash pad or a playground. One of the things that we believe is worth noting, we do have detention that has to be accounted for all of this, and that location right now logically is by the Veterans Memorial. That will have a visual impact potentially on the Veterans Memorial, and the memorial has some very unique and important assets that are not as organized and easy to access as they could be. So the idea is that we have a new circulation path that weaves those very important elements together. We think about a logical and expanded parking area for folks who want to visit the memorial. And one of the thoughts was to have an outdoor pavilion or gathering area for certain ceremonies. And part of the driving force is there's a road right now that runs through here and over to the intersection. We need detention, so that will be severed. We need to be very thoughtful about making sure we have good access to parking and access to the Veterans Memorial, and celebrate it for what it should be. So the Millennium Park expansion, there are going to be site improvements. That's grading, stormwater management, etc. The baseball field, that includes lighting, potentially a synthetic surface. I believe there are numbers that may be shared for the recent softball field out at Boyle County that will put this number in context, but that's all in, including parking, which will be needed. The park offices is the renovation of that building. The multi-purpose field includes lighting. One of the advantages of having synthetic field is that you can practice in inclement weather and practice into the evening. The Veterans Memorial, that pond could be a water feature that's a retention basin or a lake that could have a recirculation component to it with a waterfall. That number is included in this. And then the performance pavilion that we talked about, that's that civic green that's up in Millennium Park itself, includes walkways, the structure, and utilities to get electric, sound, etc. out to that location. And then the splash pad number is based off what we have recently seen down at Michael Smith Park. Again, I'll take a breath, lots of information. And we will have a summary slide with all of this so you can see everything in comparison. So bear with us on that one. Additional park projects. So what does indoor recreation mean? Tommy has experience with a facility in his former life. This number is based on that plus the cost of inflation. A Perryville splash pad, we've got a number associated with that. The mountain bike park improvements. The shade structure was actually a number that we received in bids when that facility went in, as well as the tournament court lighting. Michael Smith Park parking lot is something that probably needs to be considered, and the parking strategy is something that we'll work on and continue to work on with staff. Jackson Park court improvements, the existing courts are there, so there is an opportunity to refresh them, to bring them back up to usable condition. Pickleball expansion, as I said, that is exploding, and the idea is to have a centralized facility where you could host tournaments, possibly a revenue generator, and that could take place at Bunny Davis. Jenny Rogers Playground and Outdoor Fitness, that would be in the backyard or behind where we're sitting currently to replace what has been outdated and out of commission for a while. The bleachers and scoreboard for improvements inside, we've got a bid for that, and that's reflected on the screen. And then there are other projects that have yet to be defined, such as the Cowan Street Park improvements. We've got a playground, that's step one, so what else can happen? Is it a structure? Is it updating the path system, et cetera? Junction City Park improvements. There are a lot of ways that we can go with that. There's certainly some projects that are there, but those have yet to be defined, but something that we want to consider. And then the Bunny Davis fitness improvements. Is there a renovation of the existing facilities that we have that can bring that up to a level that maybe serves the need a little bit better? So the real question is, where do we go? That's a whole lot of information. There are a whole lot of dollars on the screen. But more importantly, we need to understand collectively, how do we get there together? So we need to establish our wish list of things, and then we need to dig in and start to strategize about how to knock some of these things off the list, recognizing that any fix is not going to be a short-term fix. It's a long-term investment in the community itself. So this is everything that we just talked about, all of the numbers, and this will be made available, this presentation will be made available to everyone, so you don't have to memorize this today. So with that, would be open to taking questions.
First question, what's your overall dollars of everything that you just told us about?
Okay. The total investment will be in the range of $35 million, plus or minus, across all of the parks,
And
potentially.
And about 26 or 28% of it would be a pool right here on this land?
Potentially.
I don't understand this plot of ground. I mean, I don't see how it possibly would fit.
It's right over here behind us, what they're talking about, there's whole open space over here. On
So
this
this
side,
big
it
property
goes all the way up to the alley.
I'm going to bring that image back up. That will hopefully help.
One of the reasons that I bring this up, and this is dating back almost 5 years ago, one of the visions that I believe the city had, and certainly the county talked about, was the central location of one pool at Millennium. And I know people will say, well, what about transportation? Well, we now have transportation in the city. I'm thinking of Princeton, Kentucky, population not even quite 8,000, and their city park is about 2 or 3 miles out of town, and they provide more than adequate transportation for any and all who go to that park, and it's been pretty successful. And again, the central location of Millennium Park, I can envision plenty of land for an even larger, rather than 25-meter pool, or something, 50 meters or more. It just seems like nearly a third of the investment in one pool right here, and the one we mentioned, over across from Millennium Park.
Money Davis.
Yeah, Money Davis.
You gotta remember, Tom, too, that the original idea that we were gonna spend on a pool alone in one central location was about $30 million. So for a third, you've now got 3. So I understand your concerns completely, but this area needs a pool as well. I understand, just like all areas need pools. So go down 11 million here, and then, the various amounts. In all honesty, you're taking all the improvements for everything for 35 million. We're looking to spend on one pool.
Still have reservations.
Understand? Yeah, the only other thing I want to ask about is that we talked about this before, and I don't see it on here, is some sort of upgrade to our skateboard park. That is a huge need. And if you want to have various ones, if you want to split it out from Millennium, a lot of communities have done that. They'll have smaller little areas where skateboard parks, whatever it may be, are very beneficial to the community.
And I want to also point out, part of the reason we're here is to identify other needs. This is by no means comprehensive, so if there are other things that we need to be thinking about, let's have that conversation. This is what we heard, and if I missed the skate park, then, that's on me from the last meeting. But, when we talk about upgrading or improving the existing parks that we have, that would fall into that category.
Are we going to baseball field primarily because we can't use the high school baseball field that's right next to it? Is that the idea, that $39, $70 one?
That idea came out of us, we don't have a baseball field that size that's available outside the school, so we're limited on how we can use that for our older kids, and for any kind of tournament, travel tournaments for that older age, middle school and up. That's one. Yeah, we had that included in the list for Junction City. We didn't have a price on it, because we didn't really know what all we wanted to do there yet, but that's that middle school age. I think it's about 50 or so.
In my mind, that's to be one of the hardest sales we have, is a $6-7 million baseball field, taxpayer funded, right next to a baseball field that's taxpayer funded. That to me, it sounds like we need to have a better relationship with the schools, and why we can't use that. I mean, I understand there's some drawbacks here, but it's a high price tag.
Some of these questions, I think I'm gonna plug into the screen. I had some numbers on from you.
I could address one thing, I've made this point before, I'm all for schools, but at the same time, I just think our location, our climate location makes our outdoor pool season a very short pool season. So I think, realistically, our outdoor pool season in this part of the country is 6 weeks long. So I think it's important, and that's depending upon the weather, because when the pool season effectively goes from Memorial Day to the 4th of July. Because and part of that problem in today's world is the fact that once the dead period is over for high school athletics, all of the kids are full go for their athletic season, which is effectively right after 4th of July. And so that's when the pool season, the outdoor pool season ends for the majority of pool operations. So I just think it's important to recognize that fact, and because I realize that whenever you send out a survey and you say, what are the things you want, a pool becomes high on the list. But if you said, how much do you want to pay for the pool, to use the pool, are we going to charge everybody $75, $80, $100 to use the pool, or more to pay for it? Because the other thing with a pool is there obviously is a one-time cost, but pools have to be maintained and managed from then on. So there also are high operational costs associated with running a pool, not only in manpower, but in all the other aspects of running a pool. So that's my biggest concern about focusing too much attention and money on outdoor pools.
Well, your emphasis is on the kids who are going to be in their sports after 4th of July, but some of us, although I don't want my body shown very much anymore, nor to Jason, but I think a whole lot of adults would be using that on-in through August.
Well, I think, I defer to some of our Parks and Rec, obviously experts, but on what our numbers look like in our pool usage.
That was what Amber brought up last time, that's kind of surprised me on how much it's used after 4th of July and the amount of attendance that's there, so, I mean, I was kind of along the same line, when you're gonna use it till, the first week of school, but it drops off.
So one of the things we've included, turn it off, sorry. One of the things that are included in both these prices are heaters for the pool. So that will extend our usage a little bit at the outdoor facility here, but, we're talking about an enclosure at Bunny Davis if we move forward with that project, so that becomes a year-round.
A full enclosure?
That correct? Is that what's included
It's
in
a
that?
temporary enclosure, so you can use it during the winter.
Okay, but it's a.
Like doming it?
12 month.
Movable.
Yeah.
Yes, but, yes.
Which, yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense, because then your high school sports have an opportunity to use that.
It kind of, and going back to aquatics a little bit, what we've landed on, I've got a couple of slides here. We looked at it as a whole, because when the NRPA recommends 3 to 5% of your total population is what you want to have capacity for at your aquatics facilities. So if we look at a countywide 30,000, 35% is 900 to 1,500, is what you want your capacity to be. When we looked at the capacity numbers earlier that John presented to us, it was about 500 at Buddy Davis would be the final occupancy, and about 700 here. So they get you 1,200, so it's right in that 4% range. So if you get both of these pools built, you're right in that sweet spot of where we'll be from a capacity standpoint. If we just do Bunny Davis, we're still going to be slightly under capacity moving forward. So that was. Pastor Ellis talked about the central location of Lincoln Park. We looked at a big facility there that would cover that full, 1,200 to 1,500 occupancy. That runs in the $20 to $30 million price range. So we were pleasantly surprised when we got the numbers back of the renovations of Bunny Davis. That really provided us an opportunity here to approach both as one total project and address all of our aquatics needs at one time. So I wanted to give you all some timeline numbers here as well to talk about if we decided today that we're going to do these projects, what that looks like for us. So Jenny Rogers Pool, now our consultant will say they think they can get us open by 2026. I've learned from Streetscape, let's push everything a year and say 2027. Like I heard it was. So you see here what the total cost would be, and these are very rough estimates of annual debt that I've just kind of pulled out off. And Lee, our finance director, is here. I'm going to put her on the spot if there's any questions about the financial details of this. But so those are kind of some rough numbers of what our annual debt payments would be for those two projects. And then I did a slide of just an overview. We did this as one big project. It's $13.9 million. That's about $900,000 a year. Would be your debt payment. And we talked a little bit about revenue for the pools. I think I was looking at some other budgets for other pools in Kentucky, and I think it's a tough bet to think any of the revenue from these projects would be able to offset the initial capital construction. If we could just break even with revenue and operations, we'd probably feel pretty good about it. So I think if you're looking at your capital costs, I don't think you can really rely on any revenue to offset that. I think this is going to be an upfront capital cost that will just have to be funded for the future. So if we did this as one project, we'd have $900,000 annual debt. We would be able to start Jenny Rogers construction complete in late 2026. So that's if we started today. Design could be done this winter. Is kind of what they're about. You all are probably at 30, 40, 50% design at this point, and I think this is a big project as far as design goes. This facility here. So to get us to a point we can bid, we're looking at wintertime bids, which realistically means you start construction in the spring of 2025. So if you say we talked about 12 months, I'm gonna say 18 months, so that gets you into late 2026 for your completion date. But the timing of that works out in a way where if you leave Bunny Davis open, and we just keep it moving along through the swimming season of 2026, we can start construction after that, which means you can finish that construction, we're estimated 12 months construction for Bunny Davis probably. So you're swimming here summer of 2027, and you're opening Bunny Davis back up with the winter enclosure late 2027, maybe early 2028. That's, like I said, that's if we say go to, soon. So I just kind of wanted to give you all an overview of that. And we're gonna look at some of the other projects, but I think the message on this, and this is kind of as good as it's gonna get. There's partnership opportunities and revenue opportunities in some of these other facilities to offset some of those costs. There's some value engineering we can maybe do on some of them to bring those costs down, but we've really studied aquatics through and through, different alternatives, and we can, the way we've looked at it, we can do a renovation of Bunny Davis. The $2.7 million number actually looks pretty good after everything we've looked at. And that will serve a certain, that'll serve part of our capacity needs and bring us into the future there. But if we really want to serve all the needs, this is the project that could do that. So that's kind of how we wanted to approach aquatics, and just throw that out there. You all can see the needs that we move forward.
Was a study done to see if that the Bunny Davis could be fixed? I just heard for so many years it couldn't, and what
Yeah,
happened?
that's what we
What
asked
did you
them.
find
We
out?
asked them to really dive into what would it take. Now, I think this is just the pool. So that we've ignored the building at this point. We've done some renovations there as far as painting floors and those kind of things recently. But this price really is just the full house. So it ignores the existing building. And, pickleball had its own cost on here to expand that in a meaningful way. So that's probably a little bit of the difference. We said, okay, we really were interested in that. What would it take? Because in the past it was always we would move on from that building. But with the new numbers we're seeing, we kind of wanted to rethink it.
And I think we looked at both options of kind of patching and replacing, and it ended up being like, in terms of longevity, what a big difference in cost, usability and longevity made a lot of sense to go ahead and replace this.
The people who used to do this, Bunny Davis, are the company that is building the new center pool. So they were kind of unbiased, they weren't part of the project, so they came by and did a full assessment.
We don't have center money, don't we?
Well, this price, like I said, baffled us, we thought it would have been twice as much.
Does that price include the year-round cover and capability?
Now, I think that price may go up slightly once we dive into it, because we talked about like a nicer slide and those kind of things at that facility. Maybe some special amenities that aren't as, so we'll dig into that. We haven't got that project to the point this project has been designed to, Junior Rockets. It's a little further in design. So that number's that 11.2 is a pretty good number. The Bunny Davis project could go up or down depending on some of the amenities that we include in that project. I'm going to move on from aquatics.
I think you'll be surprised how, if they're centrally located, how much more they'll get used from time. I think some of what happens at Bunny Davis can be, say, okay, I've been in this pool for, 4 weeks now, there's nothing extra new, and so you kind of get tired of going to a little bit, but you've got options, you'll probably get longer usage out of it.
There was definitely some of that in some of the previous studies we did and some of the surveys. There was, bottom line is people, it was not adequate to entice people to go there.
Right.
People were avoiding Bunny Davis and going to Frankfurt, going to somewhere else.
When you can see the amount of money they're spending on Henderson needs to rehab that facility, if it was the total waste of money that always talked about, they wouldn't be putting everything they're putting into rehabbing that facility. I mean, even though they do a fantastic job with it, I go there to pick up my son from camp, and that whole camp in that pool. I'm like, well, look for me.
Well, I really have a hard time with, I'm a hard, sell on a full outdoor pool in our part of the country. If we were in Mississippi or somewhere, I'm more in, but I just think that even if we extend our season, let's say we're gonna go crazy and it's gonna be a 9-week season or 10-week season, we're still talking about a lot of money for access for 10 weeks out of a 52-week year.
And I think one thing to think about the Jenny Rogers project too, not to sell it, really, that there's parts of that project that if we don't do the pool here, we're gonna need to do anyway. The parking lot expansion, we probably need to do something with the stage. It's not really usable space for us right now, so we could do a community room there. So there's some of that that's gonna overlap a little bit. Yeah, I think one of the, we didn't talk about, we met with some of our pool folks here in town. Our swim team coach, the Dark Sharks coach met with us to talk about how they would use this facility. That's one of the reasons you saw it expanded. I think last time we met it was a 6-lane concept, now it's an 8-lane pool. That really increases their ability to host meets here. So then this becomes a little bit more of a tourism, a sports tourism facility, which I think combined with the basketball courts and the cafeteria and the meeting room, it's a really nice location to host some stuff in the summertime, especially when the pool is in use. Yeah, I think and we even asked that question about them moving indoors, and there's actually their desire was, we heard, was that, we want to swim outdoors. We want to host these meets outdoors. That's kind of, when they do the summertime clubs that swim these pools, they want the meets and stuff to be outdoors. So, so my concern, and one reason I was excited about the winter enclosure at Bunny Davis is that, it's really hard on this equipment to just get shut down for, right now, 10 months a year, and then fired back up again. If we keep this stuff kind of running a little bit longer, even if it's heater outdoors, if we're doing the heater, we're going to 10-week, 12-week season, that's a little bit more, it's getting used in the wintertime enclosure, that equipment's getting running year-round. That way it's not just, we're not running into issues that we always run into in April, May, when we're trying to start everything back up.
Josh and John, looking at the enclosure at Bunny Davis and redoing the pool altogether, is it feasible to add 2 more lanes to that pool? You're going to be lifting it up or not? You're not going to be lifting it up?
We didn't ask that question. We could see what that cost would be. One of the benefits of doing the renovation there like it is that you're just kind of reusing the hole that's there. You're not expanding that hole. But we can ask that question and see. Because we are going to need to do some adjustments to the pool, like the baby pool probably, we talked about the baby pool probably goes away and that becomes more of a 0-inch area to the side there. So there's going to be some adjustments to the existing pool footprint, even with the $2.7 million project. But we didn't talk about adding 2 lanes.
I think too, without the mic, I think the original 2017 were indicated that, had a hard time identifying the future purpose of the Bunny Davis Center. I think with the advent of pickleball, and I think with identifying the idea of multiple pools to lower the net cost, or the gross cost on pools, I think that starts to create a bit more of a vision for that property. And I would say that building probably is still not defined. What, the primary building, what ultimately you want to program into that building, don't know yet, right? Which is why there are no numbers to renovate in any of this. Just making that known, right? It seems like that's a good place for pickleball. That's a good place for a pool. It's affordable. So leaning into that a little bit, but the use of the building is still undefined probably. I want to make sure that's known.
And just, our job is to provide information for you so you can make a proper decision. According to our numbers and from our research too, the longer you wait on making this is every year we're estimating it goes up $2 million, I think, right? 8%.
It was about $1 million a year.
1 million a year. So if you wait another year, it goes up to 15 for this. And if there's no action done, you might find yourself with no, in 5 years, if we don't do any kind of act on aquatic, we might not have any.
So we've done, and since we originally started saying that we were able to reline the plumbing. For example, the pool drain had a major rupture. We slip lined that using technology that we can't use again, like, because you're putting pipe inside of a pipe and you're heating it, you're pulling through it. So we've continued to look for innovative ways to keep that thing running. There has been multiple people from the outside that we brought in that came in there and spent weeks grinding out cracks and trying to reseal those, and that's just, we've continued to push it, but there is a point where it's not.
And if it was just Bunny Davis, you gotta consider also that we're shutting down for a season.
What might be very helpful, Earl, and Josh's average cost of Band-Aiding it, as far as what the taxpayers are looking at if we decide to move forward. You can say, well, we're spending money anyway.
Yeah, I think, we usually, the 3 years I've been back, we spend about $20,000 to $50,000 each spring, just kind of patching up some things out there, the deck, the pumps, the pipe, there's lots of different things. Every spring it's something different that we end up working on. But I'd say actual tangible cost, $20,000 to $50,000 but there is, I don't know if we even can measure the amount of water and chemicals that we overuse because of the leaks that are in the pool. And that leads to how cold that pool is. I don't know if you've all ever been there in June. That water is really too cold for an adult to be in. The kids don't mind it. The kids love it, but it is incredibly cold. So that's one of the things we talked about. Even if we just kept going status quo, we would probably start looking at a heater for that pool of some kind. But you're leaking water, so you're running more water, you're running that heater more, so there's the cost you're losing on power at that point, or gas, or however we would heat that. So, yeah, it's almost, we've never really sat down and measured what that total cost would be for water and chemicals. So that's what, as staff, look at this, like, we would love to do the Bunny Davis renovation, pool renovation. If we're gonna keep Bunny Davis, we need to do that renovation project. If we can, and I think that's, as staff, we'd like to see that, especially the winter clothing part of it. I was, like I said, really pleasantly surprised with those cost numbers. So, but if we ever want to reach capacity, we will. So that's kind of the message we wanted to give you all today. It was, hey, here's the deal.
Not to change subjects here, but I just want to make sure when you guys are looking at that Veterans Park, the idea there is to add extra equipment to it as stuff becomes available. The people that care for that park, that take care of it, they are trying constantly to get other pieces of equipment into there. So please make sure that's thought of when you're looking into the Veterans Park there.
Yeah, I think there's a good message on the veterans area. It's not necessarily one thing or another. I think we've never really master planned it. And really tries to see where you're at with things, and try to make that organized fully, Yeah, I think that we started out by just locating the tank and then built stuff around that over time.
Well, there's one area there, I know that Jack has specifically wanting a helicopter there.
Yeah,
So,
we talked about that. So he mentioned that to me. I appreciate you bringing it up. But yeah, just taking a moment and kind of master plan that space with more detail, I think would be helpful.
I mean, I think,
Before you just assumed you were doing anything.
yeah, no, I think any extra attention you can bring to that is always good.
Yeah.
I'm back to Master Cullen's comment about the extraordinary cost of a comprehensive aquatics center at Millennium Park versus what we're talking about here. I can't understand why a $13.9 million investment for what you projected here today at Jenny Rogers, transplant that over to that same $14 million at Millennium Park, and you have what you're talking about, and perhaps for a few $1 million more, a few more lanes. I don't see how they don't equate 14 here, 14 there.
And maybe they could speak a little bit more about what they had planned at Millennium Park. It was quite a bit bigger. It was gonna be one.
That's why I used the word comprehensive.
Yeah, it was gonna be one facility that was gonna serve the whole capacity that we need, so it was gonna be quite a bit bigger facility. And also, it was, it's a little bit more of a greenfield than this is, so you've gotta bring a lot more utilities, and you've gotta add, there's a lot more parking, and there's a lot of those ancillary costs too that go up more than here.
But we already have that space.
What are you talking about, sorry?
Millennium Park.
It was gonna be a full-blown aquatic center.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
So that's, and I think that's, that, and the thing is, you could pick up the facility we've designed here, put it there, and then and you can do two facilities, but then they're right next to each
I
other.
wasn't talking to.
Yeah, so I think that if we do the one big facility, then it gets up into the 20 to 30 billion range, which is why this became a little more cost effective. The reuse of Bunny Davis and renovation of it at 2.7 will really make this drastically more cost effective.
If you do one facility, you've got essentially double occupancy. And so that's where the costs start rising. So,
I had a question. The overall project had an indoor facility? No.
Indoor.
there was like a $10 million recreational.
The
A
rec center?
recreational center?
Yeah, I could,
Yeah.
I've got a slide on that. I'll jump ahead of it and come back. So indoor rec, we've got an estimated cost of 10 million. This, we're really early on in that kind of concept. A lot of that depends on where it goes, what that final cost would be. Tommy built a facility similar to the size we're looking at in Muhlenberg County 5 years ago or so.
2000.
Yeah, it's 4 to 5 years ago. That was $4.5 million at the time. And then he got the insurance when he left said $7.5 million was what it would cost now. So we've thrown 10 million up there just to be conservative, that, if, costs keep escalating, depends on the location, depends on what amenities we want involved. So we've got 10 million, which you can see the estimated annual debt with that. We are going to work hard to explore some partnerships for this, whether it's, public-private partnership, talking to the hospital more. That concept was on that original wellness center pool drawing that we had. We still like to explore that a little bit, because indoor rec is something that can generate the revenue to drive.
Can you explain what indoor rec is?
So we would, the facility would primarily be like 3 to 4 basketball courts, walking track. It also, it's indoor rec, so it could be, we could have volleyball there, we could have pickleball courts there, which is just a general indoor,
Multi-purpose.
Yeah.
Just with a larger capacity, so like if you come here when they're pickleballing, you've got people piled up behind each other. So it's everything that systematically, we're under capacity.
We have a pickleball tax.
Well, yeah, you should.
How much times I hear about pickleball?
Yeah, that's just the easy thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if we had the upgraded pickleball facilities, then we can start looking at ways to generate revenue with those pickleball facilities. Right now, our pickleball facilities are kind of, they're a little bit temporary and stuff we just patched together, and they're able to use those, but we don't know necessarily at the standard that we can suddenly host some big regional tournaments and things like that, or they would be doing. We're talking about doing a league this year, I believe, Tommy, is that correct? We're gonna do a league, so we're gonna generate a little bit of revenue with it, but nothing on the scale that we could if we had people over at the facility. But we see a lot of these popping up around the state that are actually privately owned facilities, so that tends to make you think that, okay, there's some real opportunities there with revenue and some cost sharing maybe. So we're gonna work really hard over the next few months to explore that. And that's what I was talking about with the pool. Okay, this is the pool project. This is what it's gonna look like if you all move forward. We think we can make this a little more attractive. So we're gonna work on that really hard over the next few months. But we've heard a lot about indoor rec recently from the community that this is a big priority.
It's substantial. Tommy can say, we're right in the middle of basketball, and everybody that's been at basketball is just crazy. There's nowhere to practice, there's nowhere to park. We're having a tournament, people are walking up the road and parking everywhere. There's just nowhere.
Identifying a solution for indoor rec is a priority for a couple of different reasons. One, we're under capacity, but I want to make sure we talk about if you're going to get, if your population, if you're going to try to improve your workforce and you're trying to get people to move here, having things like our competitors have these things. And so we have to acknowledge that as a community. And so you're not just trying to meet your demand, you're also trying to improve your quality of life to make Harold's job easier, right?
Well, and it could
And
generate
David's
revenue
job's
also.
easier.
I mean, I'm sure other communities are having the same conversation right now. There is a lack of these facilities in central Kentucky. You know, Tommy talked about, they're everywhere out west already. They popped up in the last few years. Western Kentucky, there's a lot. But like us, you know, we're doing, my daughter's doing travel with basketball in the spring. We've had to travel to E-Town and west of in Bowling Green, those areas to get to. Lexington has a couple of facilities, but they're not that top-notch, you know, new floor courts that can host a large tournament. So
Yeah,
there's actually a little bit of a need for this in the area.
The one by the mall there off Nicholasville,
Yeah.
try to get in and out of the parking lot to go anywhere beside that place. It's a nightmare.
Wait,
It's already a nightmare.
That's really the only thing in Central Kentucky that hosts, you know, many
You've got indoor tennis, you've got indoor, all these things for Central Kentucky struggling. But like.
travel volleyball is
Travel
growing
volleyball,
quickly.
if your kids are in those sports, or if you have kids in those sports, you're going at minimum hour and a half away to access it.
And for all those reasons stated, that's why I personally think this is where we would be spending our money versus the pool.
I did a trade-off on the $6.7 million baseball field.
I just say, I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just, I mean, you're kind of going back to kind of what Jamie says, is that it's an outdoor thing that's only got a limited lifetime. Something like this has much more of a, I mean, it's a 12-month usage, so.
Well, and that's one of the things I think we underappreciate is how much, even during the summertime, indoor rec is being utilized, because when it's 100 degrees and 90% humidity, people would just soon be in an indoor rec facility than they would be outdoors.
Practically, it's served the biggest percentage of the population. You're talking 4-year-olds or 80-year-olds.
Yeah, and you're talking about having an indoor walking track, for example, when it's 100 degrees, there's a demographic that's going to find that and walk. Absolutely,
And those that have, you know, in Kentucky, or those with allergies, which is everybody in Kentucky, of course, will find this a better place to walk as well, year-round.
True. Yeah, and I think, you know, it's been interesting to us that all the surveys have pointed towards aquatics, but when I talk anecdotally to the other parents that I'm around, for kids my age, like the indoor recs, look, they're nuts on it. But that doesn't show on our surveys, which I think is interesting.
Again, and if you say you want a pool, everybody wants a pool, but they don't want to pay for it.
Well, it's when they go to vacation places, they're like, oh, this place has a cool pool, and we're gonna use it for a week. And that's because that's one of the highlights, that they got to go play with splash pad with, you know, a bucket that fills with water and dumps on it and stuff like that. I mean, the reality of them using it consistently, you know, multiple weeks. I can understand all of that. I gotta go. Anything else I need to know?
I'll cover these real quickly. This is the kind of the funding for the baseball field, multi-purpose turf field. I focused on those two. There's a lot of other projects at the fairgrounds expansion that will slowly need to happen as we do these two projects. These are the two high dollar ones that I think are something that if we want to prioritize, we need to explore a little further. You know, we look at a 24-month design construction schedule for each, so that, you know, earliest year opening of these facilities will be early 2026. Now, these are also ones that we are going to work hard to explore some partnerships on. You know, the baseball field isn't, you know, we need to find people that are going to use that field and contribute towards the cost of that if we're going to build it. It's hard, like we kind of talked about, it'd be hard to justify these, especially the baseball field, with just our rec department using. The multi-purpose turf field is something that I think we could rec department-wise, we find use for 9 months of the year. But we're going to continue to explore partnerships for these, but you can kind of see the impact of those financially. And then I got a little bit here with the park offices. That's something that, you know, depending on what we do with the Bunny Davis building, because that's where our offices are now, and some of those other uses are coming here to Jimmy Rogers as far as dance and karate and those kind of things that could come here. So if we do the park offices, some of that cost could be offset by what we do with that building, whether it's sale, lease, find another potential use for it. So I wanted to point that out. And then the performance pavilion, that's a big number. We could probably pull that down with some value engineering. We've kind of talked about that internally after we got these prices. And we're going to continue, we put a grant application in last year that we did not get, but we're going to continue to apply for grants for that project and see if we can get that funded. And that's a revenue driver that doesn't have a lot of operational costs, which are some of the low-hanging fruit that we want to talk about. We're going to talk about indoor. So like the mountain bike park, and the pickleball courts, those are low operational costs for us that will have an economic impact right away. So we kind of like that, the idea of prioritizing those smaller projects. So the grant, everybody keeps sending a lot of grant money out for these kind of projects right now, and that's what we're hearing too. But we keep not getting them when we're applied for, because they're really competitive, because everybody else is getting that same message that the grants are out there, so everybody's applying. So, they're very competitive. And also, like, the playgrounds we just put in Jackson Park and Calvin Street Park, Earl applied for that grant in 2020 before I ever got back. So it's been 4 years since we applied for that grant to the time that we were able to put them in the ground. So when you think about grant projects, you've got, hey, that's a long-term bet, even if we get it. So if there's something we want to do quickly, that grants money's going to be hard to rely on for that. So as we're going to continue to try to apply for grants for some of these smaller projects, but knowing that that's 3 or 4 years down the road before that actually gets into play.
I'm really disappointed that comparable Junction City projects are something for the future. They're not, you don't think there's something that we need right away? It says good sources, but.
And I kind of worded it that way, and I was struggling with how to word that, because I think that's the county getting with those cities and figuring out how to fund those. That could have an issue, right? Like, I think those are good projects that there could be grants that could cover those, but also there's, Junction City Park especially has so much potential. I've spent some time down there with my kids. There's so much potential there in space to do things.
And I hear you say that those two areas would be integrated in the Parks and Rec program, or it would be just a county thing?
Well, I think that's kind of, maybe above my pay grade, the capital costs, but the programming and operations could be part of our department. Yes.
So you'd be included.
When have you started to talk about capital costs? Let's hear what you meant by that.
Well, like if you want to build a splash pad, who pays for that splash pad?
The splash pad here you all would need capital money, but once it's established.
By who?
By the county and Pierre.
Not a joint venture as we are as a group here today.
The city can operate, we can't spend money necessarily building the city of Danville can.
What do you mean?
Well, because it's in Pierre.
I don't think there's a legal impediment to that.
There is for the city of Danville tax dollars being spent there, general fund
But
dollars.
if we blended them together,
Well, we can operate it, but we can't, the city of Danville taxpayer can't invest tax dollars in Pierre.
The $275,000 for Perry Hall's splash pad, you're just saying that's what would need to be spent from Perryville and the municipal court to spend?
Yeah.
You're not including that in your budget?
Yes, and I'll say this, we're really not including any of these numbers in our budget. It's really, we wanted to provide these to you all to say, hey, what do we want to fund and how do we fund it, kind of discussion.
that's my point of the blended money.
Yeah. In the previous splash pad, we used kind of the numbers that we've had from the splash pads we've done recently to come up with that 275. That could slide, and it depends on, that's not been designed or anything yet, so that number could change.
Why couldn't we use that same number for the Junction City Park?
We could. We
It just
talked.
says to be determined, and I didn't understand why that was there.
Well, we were talking about the scale of the improvements there. We know, like the pavilion, is it a renovation of the pavilion there? Is it a tear down and build a new pavilion? Is it back, bathrooms? Some of those costs can really vary based on the scale of what we want. That's what the splash, we put $500,000 for the splash pad if we do want to do it in park, because the Millennium Park splash pad probably needs to be pretty big in scale. But the Perryville one would be smaller, because I would have lived down there with it, but it's a smaller scale.
Josh, I agree with I think the Junction City Park is definitely it's a diamond in the rough, I don't know how to describe it, but it's definitely an underutilized resource to the whole county, especially that South End, part of Danville, and that whole area. I guess my concern and question for you all, you and Earl as engineers and other engineers is, it seems like there's a water drainage problem in that park. Is there a way to handle that? Yeah.
Yes, and I've addressed that, with Jim Douglas, Mayor Douglas, and I, you know, the first
It
thing.
just
we
seems
do-
that like, because I know when our kids were growing up, and occasionally something would be over there, and it just always seems like it's soupy, I guess is the way I
Yeah,
would
we would
describe it.
address that first thing before we put the first thing on it. We've already talked about it. We would address the drainage.
Well, I guess that's why I'm asking.
Well,
Is there a way to address the drainage?
Yeah, there is. I mean, you can do some French drains to dry the grass a little bit better. I mean, there's things you can do. The bottom line is there needs to be public stormwater infrastructure installed to help facilitate the movement of water away from that. Understanding that it's really flat and understanding there's a really shallow water table sitting on shale.
Yeah,
So
it
that's
seems like it's
a
that
problem.
park, it's that park, it just sits there, right?
That's a real thing.
I think at minimum, we would just elevate some of your features a little bit higher. You know, if you're gonna build a splash pad, put it a little bit higher. This isn't a floodplain that we're about filling or anything, but just lift it up a little bit, let the water drain away from it. It's just Junction City really flat. It holds.
Well, that's where I do think it's ideal for soccer fields, for other things that really flat is a good thing. That could be better utilized for those type of.
Yeah, so I think especially with ball fields, these guys will, know the tricks that get fields to drain, to use French drains and other perforated materials to get water to flow away from the areas that you want to stay dry. So I think that's just something that would be incorporated in the cost, which drives these costs up, which is a hard part of the discussion.
So let me help Josh with it. How do you all want Josh to prioritize, and Josh, I say Josh, meaning Josh and Tom, on how to prioritize a list of activities? There's 2 or 3 that we're nudging along as all at the same time, right? The indoor rec center, we nudged the pool along a little bit, probably here in front of that a little bit, but, how do you all want us to prioritize what to focus our attention on? Because, we continue to scattershot stuff, we're going to continue to push a million things along a little bit at a time. So we know that you guys are focused on wanting to, and I agree with it totally, is getting something in Fairville, get something in Junction City at the park, okay? Well, those are 2 smaller projects, and so, but we know, do we prioritize aquatics, or what do we, baseball? Which one, how's that ordered? Turf field, multi-purpose field, or baseball? Or do we wait until we hear from, if we get a partner on baseball of some kind, then bring that back when that happens? How do you all, what are your all's thoughts on that?
I'll just jump in real quick and speak this is me individually speaking as one magistrate. I personally like the indoor rec priority, the Bunny Davis pool year-round efforts, and I like Commissioner Series' comments, if possible, make that 8 lane year-round pool. And then again, in the county, I personally I think we need to put a lot of priority on Junction City. I think that Junction, we can work on Fairville as well, but I think oftentimes we forget that Junction City is, I think, 3, if not 4 times the size of Fairville as far as general population. And so I think there's a lot
And it will grow.
population.
Junction City will grow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of housing pressure in Junction City right now that will drive that. You can see it on the traffic count. I would add that, one of the things that I would ask, how do we deal with the building at the fairgrounds, the Millennium Park expansion building? That building needs renovated, right? If we can renovate it, you're talking about providing some community space that could be rented and will generate some return on that. And so I would suggest at least steering us towards renovation of that building on some level, let Tommy and Josh and his team figure out the right scope for that building. And then also, you know, what about all the other smaller projects? Like, do we want to continue to work on the outdoor performance footprint, work on that, bring that back when the time comes? How do y'all feel about those other loose end things? I do think that building needs renovated. Right now, that building's kind of an eyesore. We need to clean up some of the debris from the tennis court construction, get rid of those other bleachers. We're trying to work with the fairground folks or the fair board folks to do that, but getting that cleaned up, that building's a big piece of it. And so I would love to work on that building, if you all would all have us work in that direction.
Me, I mean, I'm speaking for me. I think that Bunny Davis, we should fix that pool, and that's just my opinion. And I'm not so sure, I don't know how that funding would come in, if the county would help with that, or just like pickleball courts. I don't know if the city paid for just the pickleball court upgrade.
Today, yeah, the city's paid.
Okay. I mean, what would that look like if there's any funding? I don't know, from the county, like for the maintenance or the painting and all of that, has the city paid that 100%?
Are you talking about the black barn or the big building?
I'm talking about the brown building, the one that is off,
The
that's,
one that's on Lance Park?
yeah, that's the one that's half owned by the city and county now, because it's split in half on the property line.
Yeah.
The renovating that building and making that, the original vision that was had for that was that a rentable outdoor space. And it does that now, but it needs to be upgraded a little bit, so that, you know.
And for me, just finishing that, I mean, the pools, I think are important. I thought we, as a commission, were looking at the Jenny Rogers. And then I think an indoor facility is huge because it's a revenue, it could be a revenue maker for the entire program, which we need. Because I'm just gonna say that, and maybe I'm off base, but the Millennium Park situation, I think there's a lot of conversations that have to be had before you do anything, it sounds like. You've got pieces and parks, you've got the building that's half and half, and you've got, roads, and you've got White's Park, and you've got the veterans. So I think you've got, for me personally, I think the field is less of a need for me, and I may be wrong, and then you've got the schools that you need to talk to. We need to talk more about all of that.
Right.
Because we can't build it for one school. It's gotta be for the community as a total.
Well, speaking of that, on the Junction City Park, can you explain to everybody how that would work with it being owned by the school and the lease and all that? Because you're essentially gonna be building a park on property that we don't own.
Yeah, I think currently, I believe it's owned by the school district and leased by the city of Junction City. Is that
For 99 years.
So, yes, that's a complicated situation that we would have to work through. I think before any of us.
The fiscal court could
I'm
just.
sorry, I'm just wanting all the cards on the table.
The fiscal court right now probably wouldn't have, I guess you could probably have standing to spend, I don't know that you all would have standing to spend money on the park as capital. Yeah, I think you all would have to be party to that, lease the school. So I just, Junction City Park's complicated, structure.
And I'm working on some things right now with that. So as soon as I get positives, I'll let you know.
You could grant money to Junction City and let Junction City do it if they could take the lead on it. If Mayor Douglas was wanting to,
He is
really wanting to take the lead on it. Yeah.
Also, one,
To answer your question, Josh, priorities, at least from this commissioner, would be to take care of things that need to be finished, parking, kind of low-hanging fruit stuff. Parking, maybe some trails that, things don't cost a lot of money. I think that looking at aquatics and indoor recreation, we certainly do, but let's finish projects that are already happening.
So let me ask this. On this priority list that we're talking about, what are you asking from the county? Are you all asking us to help fund these priority projects or what? Because, we've got projects
too. We've got to build, you know,
Earl, jump in and tell me if I say something wrong here. I think we're really looking at, so you've got the big, large-scale projects that we're gonna have to borrow money for.
Yeah.
I think especially when it comes to the Millennium Park projects, the Bunny Davis project, aquatics as a whole, I think we would probably like some partnership on those if we're gonna borrow money. Some of the smaller projects, I think that's just as a group, we can pick and choose who's gonna fund what. I don't know if we need to borrow money to do all those, that's a
Yeah,
question for me to answer. Like some of that is just, we can, as a group, let's figure this out as and see who's gonna fund what.
Go back 20 years to the Millennium Park agreements as it played out. The city, you know, peeled away a project and did a $400,000 project at one time. The county spent separate money a little bit at one time. But when it came time to build the softball complex, the city and county agreed we're going to split that because it was like a $4 million project, or whatever that was, $2 million, you know, a larger investment. And so what we want to agree on, the reason there's the joint meeting is that if we're going to, if the community is going to invest money in an indoor center, we need to identify how that debt's going to be covered. And so that's going to mean that the counties probably would want to have to commit. So what we would have to do is push it to a point where we understood an MOU with how that thing's going to be funded with any partner that we identify, the city and the county, and that's going to say that when we build it, the debt's going to be paid in this way. And then you all would have to account for that in your budget, and then we would have to count that in the city budget as we propose that to the commission. Right? So that's probably how, and then if you all wanted to take Junction City and build a splash pad in Harrell, then that may be something you all work out on your own, and then once, or you could give the money to the park staff, Tommy and Josh, you could say, we want to splash pads up here, and as you're building that, you're going to send your invoices to Junction City, and they'll pay for that as you go. We can coordinate that kind of stuff, I think, within the existing agreement. It's purely about how you fund the capital. That's the operations, I think our agreement covers, generally speaking, sufficiently that whatever we add, we can migrate that into Tommy's bailiwick, right? But when it comes to that capital, we just need to decide as we go how you want to fund that capital.
In its simplest form, Perryville is 11 miles from where we're sitting right now. You want the county's participation in a project that there's virtually no optimism on my part that my constituents there take part in. Portland is 17 miles from where we're sitting today. Right now, I know the data in my district of how much my constituents are funding the library, and it's extraordinary. 11 miles and 17 miles. So drawing a parallel there, and then also another parallel of the city investing in the county. I know painfully over the last 10 days with 2 breaks in an 8-inch existing line that the city is investing in the county, contrary to some degree to whatever we're saying here we go. That's recouped by the water bills and the sewer bills, for example, in Perryville. So we're here for a joint venture between the city and county. And I can't leave my constituents out there hanging without some collaborative legal manner of lending the funds to where we can cooperate and collaborate on behalf of all the city and all the county and the taxpayers who are participants in each.
That sounds pretty good. Let's, the $2.7 billion Bunny Davis renovation, the upgraded space to cover it all up. How would you suggest we finance a project like that and tell our community that we're going to have no pool services somewhere 25, I guess, 24, somewhere 24? Let's talk about that. To me, that really gets me excited, it might get all of us excited, we can do that with the year-round possibility. And the $2.7 billion, how do we finance, talking collaboratively, how do we finance that project? Anybody got any suggestions?
Okay, yeah, I can say something. Yeah, what we, I didn't, yeah, no, I mean, the city would have to bring back a financing package that was mutually agreed to with the city and the county, just like we used to do in Millennium Park. Right, and then once both agencies jointly agreed, yeah, let's go forward, then we would make that happen as staff. Bottom line, we would provide a debt service profile, so no debt service. If the county has $1 million, they would pull out of their reserves. If the city had $1.5 million, $1 million, it pulled out of its reserve. That's going to decrease the amount of debt you have, right? I'm not saying that we have $1.5 million or $1 million to pull from something. Not arguing that. JD does. Yeah, the argument, I will say this though, the argument for government debt was communicated to me a long time ago, and it actually makes sense a lot, which is why governments do things like capital construction with debt, is so that the users at the time they're using it pays their fair share of ownership costs. If you pool money, you know, JH, the mayor lives here now, he might move to Florida and retire, and so you're taking his money and build something for future generations to use. So the application of debt means that whoever comes into your community pays for it while they're here, and then moves. So I want to reiterate that too. So there's a strong argument to be made that you finance that entire thing with debt service, so that you capture the users as they enter and exit your community.
Right, that's what I was going to suggest, is that if we determine what the joint priority list is, and then you come up with whatever that package, let's say it's the Bunny Davis Aquatic Center and its indoor facility and a few other miscellaneous little things here, the fixing of the barn or whatever, and then you come up with whatever that amount is, and then you just do one bond for that total project or improvement situation that is jointly funded by the city taxpayers.
Would that raise some questions about who currently owns certain facilities?
Well, I think that the facilities, the new facility and the and Bunny Davis Center would continue to be jointly owned.
You wouldn't have to change ownership on necessarily anything.
I'm trying to help you.
So you know, the MOU would restate, for example, the Bunny Davis Center, the city owns that exclusively, but what we would reaffirm is that that's for the Parks Department to operate out of, and the same thing with Lyle Park. The fiscal court would have to affirm or renovate that building under that bond issue would necessarily have to affirm that the purpose of that is to support the Parks and Rec operation.
Yeah, because as far as, you know, the other funding part of it, Judge Bottom has heard me and all of my magistrates have heard me say this many times, is that all of our cities are located in the county of Boyle. And all of our city taxpayers are also county taxpayers. Because actually 3 of our magistrates do not represent anybody that lives outside of the city of Danville. And so our county taxpayers are city taxpayers as well, and vice versa. And so, but if you live in Perryville, you're not a city of Danville taxpayer.
Oh, yes,
If you
you
live in
are.
Junction City, you're not a
Oh,
city of
yes, you
Danville.
are. You're paying
You're paying for a
water.
service. It's a fee operation, so there's a difference, but,
It's a municipal.
You're paying a tax for the library.
well, that's a different tax base,
It's dollars.
anyway, so that's my point.
Accessibility.
And so I think these should be jointly funded projects that are agreed upon.
Oh, there's a neat project on in Mike Smith Park right now. There's one going in Jackson Park right now. There's one going in Galveston Park right now. So we got some unique projects going on right now.
I'm excited about all that are being made to the park system. And I think it's great, but I do feel like, you know, we've got to get some attention, which now I've got some interest in the county and working on Junction City with its growing population. It's on the road. And Mayor Douglas has said he's, you know, wanting to get that project going too. So we're all on the same page. We just have, and I want, you know, I want to see if we as the Parks and Rec can make the most out of that area. And I know the drainage, we'll have to address that. That will be one of the first things we address. But I think it's something that we have to, that's not as far away as Perry Lloyd Ray thinks it's the end of the world. But if you've got just come from Florida where you have to go 45 minutes to play their ball, you know, they drive all over the place. So this really isn't a very big county, and you know, we have pretty easy access from all over the county. It's harder from your end of the county, but from Thomasville. But I just think that the Junction City, helping and getting that Junction City Park is going to make it, it's more accessible towards the Mitchellsburg area. So I just think that's a really big priority with me, everybody knows that, so.
There needs to be a meeting that Tommy and Josh go to between Mayor Douglas.
And I've asked him that yesterday.
That's the official meeting where these guys get direction from Junction City.
And we're up to
you all.
that. Yes,
Yeah.
I spoke, asked him yesterday.
And then won't involve the city of Danville Commission. We will handle that as staff. So that meeting needs to be scheduled, Josh, where you guys go meet with them and we all figure out what's going on. Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing is we, you know, sounds like Buddy Davis has the renovation coordination along with them. I think that's kind of like, for me, that's the top of the list. Like I said, we're not going to find other partners and funding for that. It's also something that we're spending money on every day to keep going. But it also sounds like we want to do maybe some kind of package of other projects put together. But I don't know if we're at a point yet to come to you all and say, hey, this is what that total package is, and start working on a financial, investment pack.
I want to challenge us as staff to come back in a month, and we have enough information that we can carry the conversation forward in this budget process, and I would argue that with these guys. So I'm going to challenge us to come back in a month-ish, depending on the schedule, we've heard conversation, and so what I want to do is get in there with these guys and this team and sort out what we're hearing, priorities that are being emphasized, and see what that fund, narrow down this scope to a possible package. Then you all look at that possible package with a little bit more information to it, and then if y'all don't like something, then scratch that out of that package, remove things from that package, and then what we'll do is go in. I don't know that you would be able to budget for it all yet, but what will have to happen is we'll have to take that package forward into a fully developed plan, and then through the course of the fiscal year, probably by the early fall, you would have, okay, this is the MOU tied to this plan, and then work on that, and then maybe you have to do a budget amendment, you would have to do it then. The likelihood of getting something fully designed and to construction and starting incurring debt in the fiscal year you're in anyway is very low. You're probably not. You're probably realistically not looking at debt service till late next summer.
I'm trying to think, Buddy Davis would be the only one that would move the fastest. If we tell you all go next week to do a Buddy Davis renovation, that probably isn't starting construction
Till the spring.
until spring. I mean, realistically, that.
Your
so
debt
this is
service
next
will likely
week's
start
season,
25, 26. Debt service would likely start 25, 26.
Right.
at this
So
stage.
next fiscal year. We would need a little funding to keep some of the design work going, to get us there. That's always something I want to make emphasize. One thing we did do a little bit differently than we've done in the past, these numbers that we presented today include design costs. I asked them to go ahead and do that. So it's a comprehensive cost of those projects. So the design cost is included, which usually runs 8 to 15% is usually what you're looking at for design costs on projects like these. So That's included, but we would need to keep a little bit of that money flowing. We have money left over this year to continue design for the rest of this fiscal year. But we would want to keep that going, and then, yeah, like Earl said, that would be probably later this year, calendar year, before we would be ready to say, hey, this is what the package needs to be.
This is what your MLG needs to say, this is how much the county will anticipate, and then authorizing that at the time. I think that's probably the best approach, truthfully. Give us a month, let us work on it a little bit more after we purge it. Yeah, I was wanting to make sure everybody got a chance to speak, because there's two of you all that haven't yet.
I feel obligated to speak for the park board, and most of them are sitting there, nice and quiet, so I felt we should speak for them. We presented this to them at their last meeting. Basically, we didn't have all the costs, but we had all the large projects and small projects, and we gave them a little homework and said, before this meeting of the city, county, let us know your priorities, and they each brought me their own priorities on their own, but it was I would say, Nick, you correct me if I'm wrong, it was overwhelmingly that they did feel that Bunny Davis rehab seemed the pricing, and they're all committed to that. And I think one of the things on that is, over the last few months, we've rehabbed one of the floors, and it came out really nice, and it came out as almost a new building, and it looked really good, and we kind of said, well, maybe this place hasn't run its course. So that was their making certain, and then they felt the large project they felt the most needed, which goes to Thomas, is the indoor rec, because they see us struggling with, staffed in 3 different gyms every night, where if we had one collective place, our staffing would be down, programming would be up. So those were their 2 big focuses, and then as Rick said, they really wanted to let's take care of what we got. Jackson Park, those old tennis courts, not a lot of money, we could really shine that up. Michael Smith Park is going to be beautiful and perfect, but there's going to be practical. There needs to be some parking there, and we've been in the garage here for a couple of years, not a lot of money, and you can really polish this up with a scoreboard and some new bleachers, So if I'm not wrong, please speak up, but that was pretty much what we had as the park committee, who, you guys assigned to deal with these issues a lot. That's pretty much what they had. Coach, I knew you'd get here. I knew you'd get something.
There's no doubt.
I don't know about the rest of my committee members, but when we built Millennium Park 30 years ago, I was on the board. That was the crown jewel of this community. And we have Bunny Davis, the center, the pool, and then all we hear is we want to spend $10 million over here, and $7 million over here, but none of it is doing Millennium Park. That's our crown jewel of this community. And we want to go outside the park and do all these things when we got a crown jewel that we need to improve. I haven't seen a lot of improvements the last 10 years in Millennium Park. And Coach Rawls there every day. He could tell you more about Millennium Park than anybody in this room. But it seems to me that we could get started on some of these projects that really need to be done. The pool, Bunny Davis Center, there's a lot goes on there. And Millennium Park, and I've said it from day one, we need a splash pad at Millennium Park. There's more kids come into Millennium Park, regional kids also, summer, than any other place in Danville. And we keep going away from that. I don't know why we do that.
I like what David said. I like David's service to our community and feel in his depth. I've seen an effort to reach out to some underserved population in our community. Parks and Rec has thought hard about single parents, on the east side of Houstonville Road going south of Boffman Avenue. There are many single parents there. There are many latchkey kids, good kids, who don't have a two-parent household who can drive them to different parks. And reaching out to them, long-term, we've been talking about a population to the north of Kroger's, and that whole population in there is underserved. Junction City is underserved. Utilizing Jackson, utilizing Michael Smith, taking care of Millennium. We've just expanded Millennium with the fairgrounds, which is very important. There's exciting things planned there. The new tennis courts are part of Millennium. There's a lot going on. There are a lot of moving parts, and you all have been very supportive, and we're really appreciative. First of all, I think the most important step we've made is getting Tommy Barton in our community. Not to single you out, but Tommy has brought a level of professionalism and direction and clarity to Parks and Rec that we all benefit from. We also have, I've been watching City Commission and Fiscal Court for, since 1981, over 40 years. And I don't think I've ever seen the opportunity we have now for intelligent, rational, objective collaboration representing all parts of our community that we have now. And I congratulate each of you on those efforts. I don't think it's seamless. I'm not that naive. I know how rough it is. And just drilling down on the multiple layers of governance at Junction City Park is instructive to all of us. We have good people in good positions who are trying hard, but have to overcome a lot of layers to get where we all want to go. So Millennium is our crown jewel, and we need to never neglect it. I've seen a lot of efforts that Tommy and his team have done. It looks good. The fields are getting improvements all the time. And the expansion into the fairgrounds has yielded fruit for our whole community. So I feel good about where we're going, and I appreciate you all taking your day to come together respectfully and listen to each other and try to give direction to our design team and to Tommy and Earl and Josh, and to us as a committee to move it forward, because we are responsible to both of you under the memorandum of agreement that you all signed several years in 2020, July 2020, and that's what directs us, and we appreciate you all.
Can I just spring off of what Mark and Tommy said? Tommy and I have talked about this briefly before. In this overall $30-some million plan, it looked, and forgive me if I zoned out, please correct me, but there's about $100,000 being invested in Jackson Park for new courts, correct?
Yes.
Has there been any vision or discussion on doing more with Jackson Park? I know it has low visibility. I think it's underutilized. There's great potential there that we're not looking at. I think it has potential to be a great venue for community events and such. Can you speak to that, Tom?
Well, we're trying to utilize the baseball, softball field a lot more. It'll be getting a new scoreboard also. I believe that was a grant, right?
It's part of the grant, about the playground as well. We did some ball field improvements to open Crestfield.
What about like, out there, the utilities and bathroom facilities?
Correct. A bathroom facility, which Parks and Rec, public restrooms and parks are a scary thing, but I mean, there is nothing there. As a park committee, we like to see, you know, the courts fixed up. The more use it has, the better the park is, I believe also too. If nobody's at the park, then it's you turn sightseeing. But, you know, I've talked with this golf club, this golf community. We've added, I want to say, 12 trees to kind of make their fairways more. And the other thing, we've talked with Public Works about removing, these aren't romantic things, but removing the big trees that have died to get them out of there. So that's stuff we're hoping to do this spring. Of course, we've got the new playground. So yeah, we do that. We just talk about hosting events there too, just to make public awareness of it more. I believe we're gonna set up an initiative of block parties all summer long, and the first one's gonna be at Jackson Park. And I believe there's an Earth Day event going on also there this spring. So like I said, it needs TLC, I believe you, and I think there for not a lot of money, it could be upgraded.
And there's, you know, you talk about underserved population, there's an area around Latimer Heights, that area that would really benefit from an upgrade of that park.
Are the tennis courts still utilized at that park, or?
They were utilized a bit for pickleball this year, but the pickleball community tends to have a hive mind and stay. So they really like to be at Bunny Davis all together. Like we've even said, should we build more pickleball courts there? And they were like, well, we'd rather build them at Bunny Davis where we can all be together. But it doesn't mean there's another faction of pickleballers that might want to play there. But yes, at this point, I would say they're almost. But they were talking about there's no basketball there. It'd be nice to have a basketball court.
They were futsal for a little while, which is like small scale soccer kind of game. That was big for like the summer, and then they stopped using it. You know, that was our first pickleball, just to get something going, was we striped some temporary courts out there, threw temporary nets up, and they were able to use it. But those courts were in pretty rough shape. They need to be, with that not just resurfaced from coatings, but like resurfaced from the pavement kind of stuff.
Well, that's what I was wondering, if they're not even being used, maybe they can be taken out and something else could be put there that, you know, might serve the community in that area better.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Jackson Park is, you know, I like to talk about Jackson Park, that it was only 30 years old when the Millennium Park was built. Everybody thinks it's been around forever. It was the late 60s is when the city bought it and turned it into a park. So when we moved out of there, moved into Millennium Park around the late 90s, 2000, the stuff that stayed there kind of dwindled in its use and then got a bad reputation with the neighborhoods around and kind of got eliminated slowly one at a time, and then it was just nothing there. And then disc golf kind of moved in and made it a home, which was a really good use for it. But as we bring new uses back into it, we need to be really strategic about what we place there with the neighborhoods around, because that was one of the issues I think happened early to mid 2000s. There was some kind of contentious issues there. But there's definitely there's utilities there. There's, you know, parking is a little bit of an issue. You don't want to do anything out there that's going to have 1,000 people there, because we're going to run out of parking really quick. But that, you know, my philosophy on parking, they can just park in the grass as far as I'm concerned. Tommy doesn't like that. That's what they did when we were growing up anyway. Just park in the grass.
Well, I think whatever we decide to prioritize, we need to remember that we're doing this for the kids and for the youth. And what are they going to benefit the most from? What activity, you know, are they involved in, and where they can go and what they can access. So I think we just have to remember that this is for the community youth. It's not for us. I mean, yeah, we're going to take advantage of some of the things probably that are done, a walking track or something.
Well, I was going to say, I was a judge, I still consider myself a kid.
You're
So
a kid at heart.
as long as you're talking about me, we're all good.
You're a kid at heart.
That's right. So
But, you know,
big kids can play too.
I think that's our priority, is to decide which of these projects are the kids going to benefit from the most and move forward under that pressure.
And
did have a question. I know we have two people that haven't spoken in these, but you had $100,000 for the bike park. I know that's another one of my big projects I'm interested in. Is that a joint, you know, where did you plan to have that?
Well, that was Allen Springs. I mean, that's a placeholder for that part. That's what
Okay,
we
and
had.
so.
There's a little bit of money in the final list had like Trails Alliance project. The Trails Alliance met this week. And they wanted to put a little bit of that money goes towards Woven Wire, the existing mountain bike park there by Dana. But the $100,000 we had in the presentation was Allen Springs. And that, the more I thought about that project and we've talked, that might be a little bit low. Once we start building a new entrance, maybe possibly, and those kind of things, that number could change. But that's such a cool project that we're excited about.
That is an investment project, because if you make it the right kind of bike park, it can be an investment, because it will bring people in. Mountain bikers go across the United States and get into those parks. So that will be an investment, and yes, I think that's definitely low. If you want to make it where people want to come to. If you're just talking about a little trail, that won't bring people in. But if you're going to make it a big enough project, that will bring people in, enter our hotels, eat at our restaurants, stop at a little service station, fill up with gas. So it is an investment project. And I got so concerned about the Junction City project, almost, how, because I've talked to everybody sighs when I bring that to project. Here she goes again, but those are two.
Well, that's owned by Fishing County, too.
Yeah,
That's what I was
I view it, this is my perspective on, like, I view it kind of like I think I put it in the on my slides, I kind of like the pickleball courts. It's something that serves our community countywide, but also will bring in a regional draw as well. So those are, I mean, when I, think about the lower cost projects that could have a big immediate impact, I kind of put those in the same category.
And it will be a multi-use park. It won't, everybody thinks it's just a mountain bike park, but it will be a walk park, a bike park, and a contact, there's a lot to do that to make it a regional problem.
I'd like to just throw out a little logistics too, switch back, because I'm just thinking in my head. If I'm reading the room correctly, there's a lot of talk about Bunny Davis pool rehab. If that is the direction we would go, I just got received a $14,000, paint the pool this spring. So we need to think about that. If that is where we're thinking about, does I need to haul on my, my spring opening, summer opening, and all the money that it'll take to do that. So just to throw that out there.
I just wanted clarification, because I think a lot of the Parks Board, because it's city, county representative, so what you said was Bunny first?
That's what they had, yeah. They all gave me different sheets, but if I look at them all, it is one or two on their list.
Okay, and then the indoor,
Right.
and then take care of what you have. So my question was, is Jenny Rogers on there, the pool?
It wasn't one of the top 5, I would say.
Okay, that's what I
On
wanted
their,
to clarify.
in their opinion.
Okay, and I'm
We
kind
didn't have
of,
like a collective vote. They each kind
Yeah.
of, so it was me taking their papers and kind of making.
that's what I heard. I mean, I'm for the Bunny first, 8-lane option. The indoor need is outrageous. It's just outrageous. We have driven to Nicholasville, we've driven to Richmond on school nights. It's not here, and it's a money generator. And long term, the concern I have about aquatics, I think of a pool like a car. When you hit that 10, 15 year, you're dumping money into it. Things are breaking. So that's my concern too, even having a 30-year bond, you're gonna be spending a lot. So, just something to consider.
If I'm correct on the Bunny David, we talked about redoing the pump room. I mean, it's all basically, it's taking the shell of the pool
Yeah.
and redoing everything from there.
I think that's a good investment. I just was looking at Jenny Rogers, and that's where I had questions in my mind.
We kind of breezed through, like, we need we kind of breezed through, but we definitely need a new playground here. That's one of those, that's kind of, for me, like, it's like, this facility, when it gets up and running this summer, we hopefully have this place full of kids all the time, every day. We're gonna need a new playground, so I would, that's one of those small project priorities for us as staff. That, in my mind, that falls into finish what we're working on now, but that kind of finishes Jenny Rogers for us, unless we do the rest of the
Do
board.
we have new playground equipment at Lincoln Park?
We put a new one in by the softball field a couple of years ago. And Tommy's, they're working hard on the old playground right now.
Yeah, I don't want
Replacing
to,
a lot of parts and pieces of that.
and this goes to Coach, I don't want to, we're not neglecting Millennium Park. We have a whole plan this summer of everything gets painted, everything gets fixed. Baseball diamonds, I'd like to put a warning track in and new conditioner. We're kind of taking that on our own, not as a big county, city initiative, that's just something we should be doing and needs to be
But
refocused on.
specifically between the large pavilion and small pavilion, that little playground, is that getting,
That's the one we just replaced all the swings,
okay?
and we're gonna go through with, our playground, representative and look through what equipment needs to be replaced, but we're kinda like piece by piece taking care of it, not as a big, huge project, but I feel that should be something that should have been done.
The several
Routine.
playground pieces there had really bad
Yeah.
issues.
And I'll say this, so Tommy's been here, 5 months now, it feels like a long time, but it's only been 5 months. I'm really excited for him to get through a year with us, seeing what we need to do better, and you're already starting to see the fruits of that. But also the sponsorship side of things, we have seen our operational costs skyrocket in the last 4 years. Part of it is just us trying to do things a little bit better, the kind of stuff Tommy's talking about, spending a little more money on those things. But also it's our personnel costs, even our part-time costs to get people that are part-time costs go up a lot. So we are really gonna work hard to get our revenue up to offset some of that, because I know it's having a big impact, especially, it's having a big impact on our general fund expenditures. And my view, my kind of philosophy of this has been, if I can bring those costs down, you all can put that money towards these projects as a bond payment instead, which is what I would, that's the ideal scenario, right? So that might, I'll say Tom's over here 5 months. We need a little more time to figure out how much of an impact we can make with that. And I think by the end of this calendar year, we'll have a lot better idea of that as well. When we look at these bond payments, because if we just did Buddy Davis, that's still $200,000 a year. If we split that, it's $100,000 each. I don't know right now if we have an extra $100,000 a year sitting around to go towards this. But if we can generate $100,000 of revenue through sponsorships and through more travel tournaments, that makes that number a little more doable for both the city and the county. So we're going to work really hard on that over the next 12 months and see where we can get. I wanted to throw that out there as well, because that really plays into us. We look at 30 years, we get that payment for 30 years. We have we have to make up for that with our operational. Either bringing down expenditures or bringing up revenue, one of the two.
Could you guys tell us what you might have in mind? Indoor rec center is pretty high priority. Where do you think that may be?
It's going to be dependent on your partner, frankly. We've talked a long time. The hospital's just to put it out there in the market, the hospital's a nonprofit. They have a fiduciary responsibility to the community, being a nonprofit. There's a history that their investment in the community is not necessarily lame, but they're not necessarily consistent with what other nonprofit hospitals of their nature are investing in. It's one of the reasons they invested in the Wellness Center back in the day. But then when you look at the Wellness Center, it is an asset. That's the reality. It's got the facilities that some of the facilities we're duplicating at Bunny Davis. Conversation has to be had with the hospital at that location about what to do, what role they want to play in the community as they're obligated to do to maintain their nonprofit status.
I'm confused, are you saying the land they own with KSD property or what?
No. Where the Wellness Center is, that's out there where the.
Oh, they have land back there?
Yeah, property behind it, and actually this guy sitting next to me came up with that idea, and that was supposed to be part of it.
Yeah, the original.
I was the guy that started the Wellness Center, and the its original plan has a multi-purpose facility on the board, on the master plan. Because the walking track that goes around the back, there was original plan, had calls for a gymnasium to be set right there in the middle of that walking track in the back.
Did not know that land was that big.
Yeah, the footprint that, to do a center like I previously ran, there's 3 spots there, behind the wellness center, there's Millennium Park, and there's the fair. That we own, that you could access, right, that we can access.
So would this not become an indoor rec center as well?
What's that?
Would this building not become an indoor rec center as well?
This one?
Mhm.
Yes, and we invited people to stick around after this, I know it's a long meeting, but we don't have a problem kind of walking through and showing you what we envision, planning on doing here. I mean, we do have the gym here, but the vision here is more of a straight up community center. It's not really all about the ball or the round thing that everybody throws around. It's more about arts, it's more about service, after-school program. I mean, it will have that, but that's not its main focus. Where if you're looking at an indoor rec center, it's more of a revenue generator with, well, it might cost you $3 to get in, it might cost you $2 to get in. Where here is more service, where this is open to the community, it's not a charge, we're not gonna charge here on a daily basis.
Josh, Tommy, Trilly, you were talking about how we need to address youth. If you stick around for Tommy's tour, you'll see that there's online gaming, or whatever you want to call it, competition facilities that will be here, which it doesn't interest me, but it sure interests a lot of middle school, elementary school, high school kids. And I mean, these are really competitive. I have very little knowledge of it, but I'm just enough to know that it's really well attended and really competitive, and giving kids opportunities, and Tommy's taking that into account, and Josh, in revamping this facility. But pay attention to stuff like that. There's been some thinking outside the box about youth and trends for youth that are positive trends that you will notice.
Thank you.
Where are you in terms of talking to Ethan McDowell about that land?
As I say, I've buttered the biscuit, but.
Have you talked to them today?
We've been talking with Dee, who runs the facility, and me and Josh are hopefully meeting with her in the next week here.
I spent 5 years at Appalachian Regional Healthcare, and I know inside and out the nonprofit, and I was a nonprofit Blue Cross. Please let me be in that meeting when you meet with Dan McKay. I think I can help.
Yeah, we're kind of in the infancy of that conversation. That's why we need to get a little further along before we're ready to package that.
You don't want to surprise them.
What's that?
You don't want to surprise them.
We've been talking to them. They're aware of this conversation. So they
Staff, but not me.
I think early you
I
spoke
mentioned
to
to
them.
Dan before, yeah, he knows that somewhere down the road this is coming up. When we talked to Dan, we talked about it. Absolutely.
I've kind of jotted down some notes here. I've got the beginnings of a little bit of a package of projects that I think that we can maybe come back to you all later. Like I said, give us a month or so while we're still in the budget period. But I don't know how big of an impact it'll have on this upcoming year's budget. It'll be a little bit of a design. The big impact will be the following fiscal year. But I think that's all we had for today. I don't know if there's any decisions that need to be made right now, or I think we can probably wait on some hard decisions. Correct.
Yeah, we don't have to have any decisions today. We'll wait, they say that until we come back, and then we'll have something specifically to ask for. Kevin and Jenny, did you all get your comments out?
Okay.
Yeah, Kevin, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I mean, my priorities were pretty much the same as everybody else's, other than my number one was the indoor facility, two was the thing at the pool. My third was performance pavilion, but I know that's not how everybody. I just know that we have a Yeah, we have a pretty big musical subculture, live music subculture here in Devil, and a lot of talented people. And maybe cool, I have one now, whether or not this is the time or place. It's up for discussion, of course, but I think that, you know, the top two are important.
If we can, though, can we try to suggest a possible next meeting date? Because we'll be getting into this budget stuff, so we
Let us get with these guys' schedule. Partly because frankly, I'm gonna be out a couple of weeks.
Oh, what?
So let's sort through our schedules.
John said tomorrow. Okay, that's all right.
If you
What we
don't
said,
mind.
no.
Yeah, but definitely at the beginning or in the budget process in April.
Yeah, we don't want to wait too much past that.
Because I'm hoping that the list will have some things on it that we keep identifying as these small projects, that we can say, well, we got $100,000, go get that one done. We got $50,000, go get that one done. So hopefully some of that will happen both for the city and the county. Okay. And then also, that indoor rec facility, that's sort of new to the table, so hopefully come back with some more details, more specifics about that. When we said $10 million, it's like, okay, heck of a building.
It's not really.
So we're gonna get a copy of that.
Yeah, John,
Yes,
We will give, all the slides we had today, we'll put a PDFs in that, everybody. And we'll probably post.
We will post them online as well. So, Sarah.
I have a question about the indoor rec facility. Have we thought, we have so many factories that have closed. That's a possibility to use a factory to repurpose, you know, something like that. I mean, we had looked at that in the past, the old ATR building. Is that something that's in?
I think I've thrown some crazy ideas out to them about refurbishing old buildings. I keep my eye on commercial properties just for that actually.
Yeah.
Like I look and see what's for sale just in case the perfect building. You need a lot of height, especially for volleyball. If you're gonna do volleyball, you need a lot of height. So that's sometimes a limiter, but if anybody knows of anything that would fit, what's that?
You're looking at 300 feet by 200 feet.
Yeah, Red Wing wouldn't be tall enough.
Don't really, the ceiling's
It's
not
a
tall.
good, it's a good location.
Yeah.
I've done some measuring on it, actually. You see. So
That's the number one reuse big box stores now is pickleball.
But that's the facility that was mentioned earlier, that's in Lexington, that's by the mall. It's an old, we're talking retail store of some kind. So, yes, there's definitely opportunities for that. We keep an eye out for market things going along, and we'll jump on it for sure. But what we're also seeing a little bit is I don't know how much money that would save us. That's what people are asking for some of those facilities now. There's actually something for sale on South Stewart Lane that I've looked at. That they did a little bit for quite a bit of money for it. So at least it's a balance of that, of what the cost we should put out there. So.
Okay, I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move. Second.
Thank you, guys. Any other comments, parting comments? Oh, there's a meeting that the Senate works at 1 o'clock. I want to remind those who intend to be there. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Those opposed? Thank you all.